You're listening to Trailblazers.fm, an interview-styled podcast that delves deep into bold conversations with successful Black entrepreneurs and leaders. Join us weekly to learn actionable strategies, valuable tactics, and innovative tools that you can put to use immediately on your journey to blazing your trail. And now, here's your host, my husband, Stephen A. Hart.
Hello and happy Friday, Blazer Nation. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Stephen A. Hart. I'm the host of Trailblazers.fm. If this is your first time joining one of our live streams or our podcasts, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. You can learn more about Trailblazers.fm over at stephenahart.com. Through the platform, through the podcast, and what we've been doing here with the live streams, I've been blessed to have now over 200 bold conversations with the likes of Black professionals who are self-driven founders, who are best-selling authors, who are passionate leaders. And my goal with this platform is to document these extraordinary individuals and their stories, in hopes that it teaches you actionable strategies, what I love to say, valuable tactics and tools, right, that hopefully you can put to use in your journey to blazing your trail. That said, I don't want to waste any time this morning. I want to get right into it. Allow me to introduce our featured guest for today. A long time coming. Kandia Johnson is with me this morning. She's the founder of Kandid Conversations Global, a leadership training and coaching program to help workplace and entrepreneurial leaders tackle self-doubt and unleash their hidden potential. She's also launched She Deserves More. It's a career confidence and visibility program for mid-career women who are looking to position, pitch, and promote themselves as leaders, be it at work, in business, or within their communities. Blazer Nation, if you are joining us live, I want you right now to open the comments, drop some hand claps, and join me in welcoming Kandia to the Trailblazers stage.
What's good? What's good, Blazer Nation? Finally,
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here.
I am excited to have you here. Good morning, my sister. How you doing?
Good morning. I am blessed this morning. Of course, I could complain, but I'm not. I'm here with
That's
you.
right.
And listen, I want to just take a moment to salute you on your nomination for Best Black Business Podcast, which makes me feel even more honored that you would invite me here today. Congrats, my brother. I'm super happy and proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It really is, I don't do Trailblazers for the accolades, right? We do it for the impact, but it's always a blessing, right? When you're recognized for the work. And so thank you so much.
You are
Listen,
very welcome.
we started talking here just now, and the fire was like blazing hot. I had to fan the flames and say, Kandia, wait till we get on the stage. Wait till we get on the stage before we fire you up. Because I was joking and saying, man, I'm just gonna ask you one question and just let you just, take it all the way home and get us into this weekend. But as we start this conversation, I want you to reflect on and share an unexpected blessing that you're most grateful in your life for right now.
Wow, that is deep. I would say an unexpected blessing for me has been this wave of surrendering to what is. For many of us, including myself, and let me just speak for me, 10 years ago, you had this vision of what your life was going to look like. And then you get to this place and you're like, wait a minute. This is nothing to what I expected, right? And sometimes you get in a space, well, I got in a space a few years ago where I was so focused on what wasn't happening and what couldn't happen at the moment because I was being called to do other things in my life. related to my family. And I finally got to a place, I would say about 2 to 3 years ago, of just surrendering to what is and playing the cards that I was dealt.
Mm.
So many times we fight what we can't control, and then we lose sense of what we can control, right? And
Mm.
so for me, I got to a point where it's like, okay, my mom was having some health challenges, and so I needed to be committed in that area to make sure she was good and put some of my things on hold. But the reality is, I was in a space where I was mad over the fact that I didn't have 40 hours or 50 hours to build my business anymore. But guess what, Kandia? You got 10 hours. You have
Mm.
5 hours, so you can make it do what it do with the 5 hours,
Mm.
right? So that's where Show Up Anyway for me came from. It's like you may not have the 40 hours, but you have 1 hour. Now what? And
Mm.
sometimes when you are facing a storm in your life, your eyes will have you believe that things are impossible. And so you have to really focus on training your mind to get present and focus on what you can control versus what you can't control.
Mm.
So the surrender is the unexpected blessing for me, to be in this space and to continue to ride this wave of just surrendering to what is. And let me be clear, surrender doesn't mean that you give up.
Mhm.
Surrender just simply means you are playing the cards that you are dealt, and you're playing them as best as you can with what you have, not
Yeah.
strangers on the internet, not
Yeah.
comparing yourself to what they have, but
Mm.
being fully present in what you have the power to do at this moment.
Wow. Listen, I told y'all, man. She's coming with the fire. Kandia, you speaking right through me this morning. I'm just like, I'm thinking of you and I share being caught in this sandwich generation, right? And the challenge is, last year, without question, was arguably one of the toughest valley seasons I've had to endure. Right, so much happened from my dad suffering an initial stroke to my wife getting furloughed to the kids being home to stopping the podcast for the first time in 200 plus episodes. It just felt like everything was caving in. Kristen injured her leg and couldn't explain for almost a month. I live in a 4-story townhouse. My wife can't walk.
Wow.
And I started the year out, I've said this many times, but I started the year out, just turning everything off for the first time in a long time. I was burning, all that white space. There was no margins. The people was full coming into the year, and then everything fell apart, and I had no ability to process anything. But the middle of the year came, and there was a decision to be made, right? What do you do? Do you just fold this podcast because you haven't published in 6 months? Do you just call it quits? Do you shelf all of this energy that you've poured into these different parts of who you are and just focus in on your 9 to 5? Or do you get up? Right? Les Brown says if you fall down, try and fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
Love that.
Right? And it was one of those moments where, I struggled to say, you know what, I always say, let's see what happens.
Right.
Let's see what happens. And you take it, one step. Sean is here in the comments. Sean is the one that said, yo, you ready? Because I got a series I want you to do in the fall. And Sean is the one that relit my, fire, if you will, to get back on the horse and say, hey, let's try and do some interviews and see what happens. And show up anyway.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought up Sean. Shout out to Sean. One of the things that I often say is confidence comes from community. And sometimes to get back up, you need the support of the people around you, right?
Yeah.
And those people, they may not be family, they could be people you meet on the internet. You and I connected on Twitter over some of the challenges that you are having with your dad, I was having with my mom. And so hearing your story or seeing you share your story and how you navigated that, and seeing you continue to show up for your Trailblazers Nation and continue to serve the community was a confidence booster for me to keep going, right? And so I would encourage anyone who is facing a personal storm right now to first honor your pause, right? Or embrace your ability to pause, because I believe that any step that you're trying to make in a new direction, any new habit that you're trying to form, any situation that you're trying to grow out of, and I use grow very intentionally. I believe you don't go through things, you grow through things. It starts with your ability to pause. Pause and breathe and get focused on what you can control and what you can't control.
But Kandia, I'm wasting time when I pause.
No. Absolutely not. See, the biggest mistake that we often make is we think it and then we decide. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. And I'm sure if you think back to those moments when you were faced with the situation with your dad, your brain, your mind started running ahead, too far ahead, and telling you some stories that wasn't true.
Anxiety.
Right? So you need to learn how, and listen, a pause could be 5 seconds, 15 minutes, or 15 days. Take what you need. But you have to give yourself permission to pause, because for me, one of the things that I've realized is success at anything comes down to learning how to have a better conversation with yourself. And so you have to start with a pause so you can learn how to question some of the thoughts and the stories that you are telling yourself about whatever your situation is, and get focused again on what you can control, on the facts. Give yourself an opportunity to separate the facts from the assumptions and the facts from the feelings. And oftentimes we don't do that. We think it and then we decide that this thing is going to happen, or this is going to be the worst thing that happens to us, or we think someone doesn't like us and then it's true. And if you give yourself an opportunity to pause and question yourself, just to say, how do I know what I'm assuming is true? Your eyes, it may look like this is the end of the world, but I'm here. Stephen is here to tell you that just because you think it, it doesn't mean it's true. Your success at anything, I don't care if you want to lose 10 pounds or if you want to grow $1 million business. Your success comes down to learning how to have a better conversation with yourself, to learning how to question your thoughts, learning how to reframe your thoughts, learning how to question the story you are telling yourself, and question the story the world is trying to tell you as well. Because even as Black professionals, sometimes we face images and stories every single day that work against our best interests. And I'm proud of you for taking that break, because 9 times out of 10, you needed that pause to fill yourself back up. And thank God again for Sean for coming along. You're part of your community to help you get to the other side of things.
Yeah. Sean is saying there's power in cocooning and pruning, pausing and letting go of what needs to go.
Listen, all change, I can't say this enough, all change, or all behavior change, all level up, it starts with your ability to pause. It starts with your ability to pause, breathe, question, reframe, and then decide. Don't let your brain think a bunch of thoughts and then you go deciding. Right? You have to learn how to question your thoughts. It comes down to having that's what Show Up Anyway is about. It's learning how to have a better conversation with yourself through rejection, through humiliation, through shame, through making a mistake, through conflict. That all comes down to learning how to have a better conversation with yourself. You see, many of us go to school to learn whatever skill we need to succeed in this lifetime, but very rarely are we taught how to manage the mindset that's required to execute on that skill effectively. Regardless of you specializing in technology or law or medicine, if there's a thought that tells you you're not good enough, doesn't matter, how much education you have in that skill area, you will probably remain stuck or stop yourself from getting to that next level of success. So you have to go back to learning how to have a better conversation with yourself, and also learning how to ask for help and be very transparent about where you are in the process. And that's the power that comes from community.
Ralston is asking a very important question here that I want you to shed some light on. As a leader, what is more important, how others value or perceive you, or how you value yourself?
How you value yourself.
Yes.
Hands down. That's where it starts. Because if you go in to a workplace or just an environment and you already have a low perceived value of yourself, then anything someone says about you is going to get to you. Anything.
Other people's opinions of you is none of your
business. It's none of your business. Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. What other people can pay you or what they can afford is none of your business. That is none of your business, right? And when it comes to what people think about you, here's what we have to understand. Each and every day, right? Whether you work for yourself or you work in an environment, we bring our baggage into the workplace or our environments. We bring our experiences, our trauma, our biases into the workplace. And so when it comes to relying on what so many people think about you, you have to understand that when you follow down that path, you are inviting yourself to their baggage. You never really know the real reason why they don't like you. Sometimes it's rooted in their fear. Sometimes it's rooted in the things that their family or their friends told them that they could not do, right? Sometimes you may remind them of the ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend that they don't like. I don't know, right? And so when you buy into, or you put so much weight into people not liking you, you have to understand that you're buying into their trauma, their baggage, and everything, which again is none of your business. So you have to start with having that value, believing in that value that you bring to the table. Now, let me say this too. I don't really buy into don't care what nobody thinks, right? I think, shout out to Minda Harts.
Yes.
I think Minda Harts, and in the memo, she talked about your top 5 or something, top 8 or top 5. Sorry, Minda, one of those tops that she talked about in terms of, of course you have to care what some people think, right? If you are, of course, you have a community, you have clients, you have family, right? And so I don't want to say you don't have to care what anyone thinks, because if you are a service provider or if you show up at work every day, of course, you have to be concerned about what a group of certain people think about your work and, the value that you promised them that you could deliver. But I think that we have to ultimately have that high value, that belief in ourselves before we could expect that anyone else would believe in us as well. That's where it starts. And when it comes to cultivating that belief in yourself, one of the things that we have to understand is oftentimes the action comes before the belief. All throughout my childhood, I was always told, you just have to believe in yourself. You just have to believe in yourself. Chances are you're not going to believe in yourself right away. That's just the reality of the situation. So you have to get out there and take small steps, action steps, right? To cultivate that belief in yourself. And then I go back again to your community, because surrounding yourself with positive people, forward-thinking people who have a growth mindset can also help pour into you and help you get to that next level of success. Or I don't even want to talk about get to that next level of success, because success is subjective, but just help you get to where you are trying to grow.
Yeah. What are some actionable steps, right? Like, okay, so you're seeing a lot of good things, but if somebody's tuned in right now And you and I have been at the point of paralysis, right? Where you're stuck in neutral. You ain't going back, forwards, like you're stuck. What's the first step?
The first step I would tell that person is sometimes it's okay to be in neutral. I think that's what it is. You don't have
Part
to
of
be
that pause.
moving.
Yeah.
It's part of the process. You don't have to be moving all the time. Just because you're busy, it doesn't mean you're productive or efficient or successful. Doesn't mean any of those things. So you have to embrace and celebrate also those still moments. So I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
That I for me, I remember the time when I was beating myself up because I was just stuck. And sometimes I wouldn't even call it stuck. I would just call it is what it is. I'm feeling like I need to be still at this time. Right. And for me, in that period, I would ask that person to take stock of what you are thinking about during that time that you are on your pause. Remember, a pause could be 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 15 days. And so for me, if I'm constantly thinking about, I have a podcast and at one point I quote unquote dropped the ball, right? But I was constantly thinking about it during that time. The thought would not leave me. The calling would not leave me. And so during that time, I said, I have to get back into this because I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop feeling like I should do this thing. It doesn't matter if it's going to be quote unquote successful or not. I need to do it. And so I would say to first honor your moment, take stock of your thoughts, literally write them down, take stock of your what ifs. I always give this tips. Chances are your what if can be turned into what to do now. Because a lot of the times, again, with what ifs, we're thinking too far ahead. And sometimes it's as simple as, what if I fail, or what if I succeed? How can I prepare for that moment? The same energy that you give to a what if is the same energy you can give to a what to do now. And so I would encourage that person to stop beating yourself up over the stuck.
You know, the thing I love is you saying is you're embracing the pause. And I think what happens, and I think you've echoed some of this in what you just shared, but we need clarity about what direction to go in next. And so the pause allows us, opportunity to breathe, to redirect with clarity about where we want to go next.
I'm so thankful that you brought that word up, clarity. Clarity unfolds. It unfolds. I'm sure you could agree, Stephen, that how you started out 3-4 years ago is different than where you are now.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful space that you're in now. But you would not have realized this space had you not allowed clarity to unfold through imperfect action. That's what we have to commit to. Imperfect action. Giving yourself permission to allow some of your gifts, some of your insights, some of your connections to unfold as you go along. But they cannot, clarity cannot unfold if you don't take imperfect action.
And listen, we're talking about, Kandia and I both shared experiences, life experiences, her mom, my dad, the big season shifts that happened. But we were joking about this before we got on. Like, listen, yesterday I was, stuck in a dentist appointment, running out with gauze in my mouth, and I'm sore face, and I'm showing up on a live stream and deciding to show up anyway. And those days happen, right? So it's not necessarily the long season. Sometimes, you just need to pause in a moment, right? For a day, right? We stepping into this weekend. Today is Friday when we're recording this. Take a pause if you need to. Don't bring the work into the weekend. Turn the laptop off and allow yourself to go do something that gives you some self-care, gives you some opportunity to build your own mental strength, right? And be able to reset coming into the next week.
Right. I think too, just understanding your best is going to look different. Your best is going to look different at times, and it's okay. You're human. Your best is going to look different at times. It's going to feel different at times. And another thing I want to stress is one of the when I talk about this space of surrender, one of the lessons that's taken me the longest to learn is that my value, my worth is not tied to my productivity. It's not tied to the number of hours that I put into my business or my job. It is not. And so, we talk about success, but part of the clarity that people as individuals we need to define is understanding what success looks like for you. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it look like for you? What does it look like for your relationship? What does it look like for you and your children and how you grow? And so again, I want to go back to that moment when you said you paused and unplugged from everything. Those moments are needed because you have to go back to the vision board and you have to go back, whether your vision is mentally or you have it on the board, and say, okay, wait a minute now. What does success look like for me again? And as a society, I feel like some of us, and again, I was there. Sometimes I take myself back there and I have to get my own mind right. Like, pause, Kandia. That's not your vision of success. What does that look like for you? Your worth, your value is not tied to your level of productivity or the number of hours that you put into your work. It is not.
Listen, we need a part 2, 3, 4, and 5 of having you on this show, because you're pouring into my soul. And you have listen, Blaze Nation, from what you've heard so far, I want you to drop some comments on your big takeaways and what you're pulling into your day. Kandia, a couple questions here, and I'll let these people go about their work day. But tell us a little bit about what you do, because your message is so powerful. But talk to Blaze Nation and share with them a little bit about the work you are doing right now. What's driving you?
Okay. So as a leadership visibility coach and trainer, I teach people how to develop their confidence, develop their leadership presence so they can get hired and recognized as a leader, be it in their community, in their workplace, or within their industry. And so I do that primarily through workshops. Just this week, I had 4 companies, 3 different workshops, all about leadership development, self-awareness, right? Understanding that sometimes how you perceive yourself is different than how people perceive you. Learning how to be very aware about how you're showing up, and then using that awareness to develop and strengthen your relationships within your workplace. The second part of that is fine-tuning your visibility plan in terms of how are you going to promote yourself? What are some ways that you can amplify your voice as a leader, whether it's or becoming the voice of a particular topic or controversial issue within your industry or your community, and using a series of talks to get yourself out there. Maybe it's taking ownership of an initiative in your workplace. Maybe it's leveraging media attention to help you get that level of visibility. And so that is my day-to-day work that I do for companies and individuals. And what drives me is knowing that, and this is why I focus on mid-career people, is that I feel like there are so many of us, the world kind of tells you that if you don't make the under 40 list, it's over for you, right? So I'm here, listen, for the 40, 35 plus and up. We still popping. We still got time. That's who I'm here for. Okay, there's still time. You're still amazing. You could still do groundbreaking work. And so I meet so many people in that age range who think that life is over and that they can't change careers or that they can't become kind of a thought leader in this space. And I'm here to tell you that someone may have told you that you could only tell one story, and I'm here to tell you that they lied. Now, here's how we're going to get to that next level.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. What are you reading right now? Anything that you would recommend that we add to the queue? Are you a book reader? Are you a
Yes.
audiobook person? Like, do you like to
So,
have your hands on the book?
okay, true tea. So 2 years ago, I wanted to read 30 books, 35 books. That was my goal in a year.
Mm.
So I downloaded and subscribed to Audible, and I was able to achieve that goal. I loved Audible. But then I'm like, Kandia, who you fooling? You're an old school girl. Like, I like to mark up the book and have all sorts of dog ears in the book, right? And so now this year, I'm back to reading physical books. So I am reading T.D. Jakes' Don't Drop the Mic. I'm also finishing Untamed, and both books are really insightful. So, Untamed, I would say, is more so about what I talked about earlier. It's just getting to this point when you are mid age, mid career, and you're like, wait a minute, okay, I'm ready for a change. And it's really about unlearning, certain things that you were raised to believe and all those
Mm.
sorts of things. And in T.D. Jakes' book, he talks about public speaking.
Mm.
Talks about the power of listening. He talks about how he prepares for to deliver a message. He talks about some of his challenges, some of his setbacks that he's had around that arena. And so I am enjoying both books right now. Of course, in October, I'm looking forward to, once again, Minda Hart's book. I think it's October 5th. So I'm definitely
October 5th.
looking. Yes, October 5th. I'm definitely excited about that book. And that's what I will be reading next.
Yes. Big up to Right Within. Right
Yes,
Within,
yes,
Sam.
yes, 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 yes.
And my brother Sean Dove is also dropping his book, I Too Am America. Got to get our hands on that one.
Yes. What date is that book launch? I have to write that down.
Sean, you need to drop the date in the
Yes, Sean,
comments.
please drop the dates, because I'm such a geek that I have these dates in my calendar. I actually have my book list already established for 2022 for the first 6 months.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna drop the link for
Right.
Sean's book here.
And while you're dropping that link, another piece of advice that I would love to offer someone is learn, when I talk about not tying your worth or your value to the number of hours that you are productive or what have you. One of the ways I would suggest that you do that is to learn how to celebrate yourself just because.
Mm.
Stop waiting for a specific outcome to take yourself out to dinner or to pop that bottle of champagne, or learn to celebrate yourself just because.
Right.
So often we put off happiness or joy because we feel like we have to work and achieve a certain thing before we can celebrate. And so, again, I would encourage you to learn how to celebrate yourself before that actual outcome appears.
You've shared so many gems. I'm gonna ask you to share just one more. What's one action that our Blazer Nation coming away from this live stream or the podcast? What action should they take this coming week, that's going to help them to blaze their trail?
So, because it's Friday, I've shared this
Mm.
before. I am a theme girl. I usually have a theme for every day of the week. On Fridays, my theme is Follow Up Friday. And on Follow Up Friday, I like to reconnect with people in my network. Hey, I have a virtual coffee date with someone today at 1:00. And so on Fridays, I send an email, I send a text, I send, email, text, I pick up the phone. We still do that, right? I pick up the phone and I try to connect with someone in my network to figure out what they're up to check on their well-being. I sent an email to someone I haven't seen, I connected with on Instagram and I haven't seen her on Instagram for a while. So I said, you know what, let me text her, find out if she's okay. So I would say to fuel your next level, to adopt that habit of a follow-up Friday, to reconnect with people so that you can, I feel like, again, confidence comes from community, and
Yeah.
reconnecting and staying connected with people, offering your support and also asking for help at that time, being vulnerable enough on Follow-Up Friday to ask for help.
Yeah.
Is another powerful thing that you can do. Take your relationships. So just like you and I Stephen, we connected on Twitter. And then after a while, we were like, okay, wait a minute now. We need to talk on the phone. Right? So during Follow Up Friday, you can also identify people you've been, having a conversation with, tweeting back and forth, or through Instagram DMs, and say, hey, we should connect on the phone. If you live in the same town, let's meet up. So
and
that's the one habit.
Here's a reel. Kandia a couple weeks back was pushing on something, and I saw where I could help her, and I said, hey, let's get on a call right quick and talk through this, right? How can you add value to other people, right? Where it ain't gonna take too much from you, but you'd add some value and help, and an assist goes a long way sometimes, right?
And I can't thank you enough. You saved my life. It was the most powerful 15 minutes of training that I've had in a very long time. And I thank you so much. He's like, let me help this girl out because she's struggling. We can't have my girl out here looking raggedy in these streets. I appreciate you. I text you. I said, Stephen, thank you so much. You saved my life. And that's the type of support, the value that you could offer. Sometimes, again, it's just a listening ear. How can I be of service to you and what you're doing? And again, I can't say it enough. Right before we jumped on live, I said, listen, that meetup that you had last week, we need more of that. What's happening? I'd hate to put more work on your plate, but we need more of those types of conversations. And so I so appreciate you. And I'm so thankful that we have taken our online conversation offline and we're connected like this. So thank you so much.
You're now part of the Trailblazer community forever, right? And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank
you. We need the part 2 and the part 3. Maybe I can pull you and me and Minda and Sean into a conversation.
I would love that. Would love it.
So we just got to get Minda through her crazy right within season.
Yes, I know she's booked and blessed to capacity.
That's right. I'm sure she'll catch us on the West Coast in the replay.
Yes, definitely.
But listen, I will let the folks get on to their Friday work day. Thank you so much for being here with us and blessing us this morning and just sending us into the weekend energized and just ready to pause and to process, right? And to be able to move forward with some measure of clarity. And so thank you so much. Much love.
My friend.